I'm going to read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and this is with translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and this is Madhya-lila, the cleansing of the Madhya-lila, chapter 12, the cleansing of the Gundicha Temple, and this is verse number 43. Prabhupada Prema Bhakti Janaila Rajar Prasanga Paya Aiche Kohe Bar Bar. At that time, Ramananda Roy informed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the ecstatic love of the king. Indeed, as soon as there was some opportunity, he repeatedly informed the Lord about the king. So, first, Maharaj Prataparudra was very anxious to meet with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has now come back from South India and who is in Puri. But Mahaprabhu didn't want to know anything about meeting with a king because he says the king is the head of materialists and people will think he's trying to get some favor from the king if he meets with him, and he doesn't want anything to do with meeting with the king, so he tells. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya tells the king that Mahaprabhu won't meet with you, and the king is very disturbed, and he says, well, I can't meet with Mahaprabhu, I might as well give up the kingdom and just live by begging. And then the devotees decide that the king is very serious, and they don't want to try and force Mahaprabhu, who's resolute in his determination not to meet with the king, but they decide to go to Mahaprabhu and not ask him to meet with the king, but just start describing very nicely the king. But when they get there, they're too intimidated to speak. So then Mahaprabhu says, I see you want something, but you're not saying anything. What's going on with you? And then Nityananda, who's very direct, Nityananda, he says, well, the king wants to meet with you, and he says if he can't meet with you, he's going to get an ivory earring and put it in his ear and just become a kind of tantric yogi and just wander around door to door. So he'll give up his kingdom, and so he describes this. And then Mahaprabhu isn't so much moved by that, but Mahaprabhu then I believe it's Nityananda says, but there's one way you can calm the king down. If you'll send him one of your bahirvasas, one of your sannyas devotees, then that will calm the king down. So Mahaprabhu says, all right. And they send a sannyas devotee to the king, and the king worships the devotee. Now, Ramananda Roy had been with Maharaj Prataparudra, the king in South India. And now Ramananda Roy had asked permission from the king because Mahaprabhu had spoke to him, and Mahaprabhu told him he wanted Ramananda Roy to spend the rest of his time with Mahaprabhu and be with him. So Ramananda Roy asked the king for permission to leave his collection. He was like a tax collector and a diplomat. And he asked the king to leave his service so that he could just serve Mahaprabhu. So the king who was very much wanting to see Mahaprabhu, he says, yes, that's very nice. You can give up your responsibilities, and the king would even give him a full pension without docking him anything in his salary. But the king said, but please help me to try and meet with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Then Ramananda Roy, his tactic is what the devotees wanted to do, but they weren't able to do it. His idea is when he meets with Mahaprabhu, he'll just describe the glories and the devotion of the king and create a favorable impression with Mahaprabhu. So at that time, Ramananda Roy informed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the ecstatic love of the king. Indeed, as soon as there was some opportunity, he repeatedly informed the Lord about the king. Raja Mantri Ramananda Vyavahara Nipuna Raja Priti Kohe Dravila Prabhurmana. Sri Ramananda Roy was indeed a diplomatic minister for the king. His general behavior was very expert, and simply by describing the king's love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gradually softened the Lord's mind. Udkantate Prataparudra Nare Rakibare Ramananda Sadilena Prabhore Milibare. Maharaj Prataparudra, in great anxiety, could not endure not seeing the Lord. Therefore, Sri Ramananda Roy, by his diplomacy, arranged a meeting with the Lord for the king. Ramananda Prabhu Bhai Koila Nivedan Ekbar Prataparudre Dekaha Charan. Sri Ramananda Roy frankly requested, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please show your lotus feet to the king at least once. Prabhu Kohe Ramananda Kaha Vichariya Rajake Milite Jujai Sanyasi Haya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, my dear Ramananda, you should make this request after duly considering whether it is befitting for a sannyasi to meet a king. Rajara, because Mahaprabhu is a very renounced, he's what's called a Virakta sannyasi. He doesn't go in the association of rich persons or kings, and he doesn't associate with ladies, have to approach him from a distance. So Rajara Milane Bhikkhu Kera Duilokanash Paralok Rahuloke Kore Upahas. If a mendicant meets a king, this world and the next world are both destroyed for the mendicant. Indeed, what is there to say of the next world? In this world, people will joke if a sannyasi meets a king. Ramananda Kohe Tumi Ishvara Swatantra Kare Tomar Bhai Tumi Naha Paratantra. Ramananda Roy replied, my Lord, you are the supreme independent personality. You have nothing to fear from anyone because you are not dependent on anyone. Prabhu Kohe Ami Manusha Ashrame Sanyasi Kaya Mano Bhakye Vyamahare Bhaivasi. When Ramananda Roy addressed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of God, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu objected, saying, I am not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but an ordinary human being. Therefore, I must fear public opinion in three ways, with my body, mind, and words. Shukla Bastre Mashi Bindu Chaichena Lukai Sanyasira Alpa Chidra Sarva Lokegai. As soon as the general public finds a little fault in the behavior of a sannyasi, they advertise it like wildfire. A black spot of ink cannot be hidden on a white cloth. It is always very prominent. Raiko Hekata Papira Karyache Avyahati Ishwara Seva Katomar Bhakta Gajapati. Ramananda Roy replied, my dear Lord, you have delivered so many sinful people. This this King Prataparudra, the king of Orissa, is actually a servitor of the Lord and your devotee. So you've already delivered so many sinful people, but this king, he's actually a devotee. He's not a sinful person. Prabhu Kohe, Purna Jaiche, Dugdera Kalash, Sura Bindu, Pate Keho Nakore Parash. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, there may be much milk in a big pot, but if it is contaminated by a drop of liquor, it is untouchable. Jajapi Prataparudra Sarva Gunavan Tahare Malina Koila Eg Rajanam. The king certainly possesses all good qualities, but simply by taking up the name king, he has infected everything. He may be very wonderful, but because he has the name Raj or king, everything's ruined. So, Tatapi Tomara Jade Mahagraha Hoy Tabe Ani Milaha Tumi Tahara Tanoi. But if you are still very eager for the king to meet with me, please first bring his son to meet me. Atmavai Jayate Patra Eshastrabani Putrera Milane Jena Milibe Apani. It is indicated in the revealed scriptures that the son represents the father. Therefore, the son's meeting with me would be just as good as the king's meeting with me. Tabe Rai Jai Sab Rajare Kohila Prabhura Agyayatara Putra Loya Aila. Ramananda Roy then went to inform the king about his talks with Mahaprabhu, and following the Lord's orders, brought the king's son to see him. Sundara Rajar Putra Shamala Varan Kishora Vyasa Durga Kamala Nayan. The prince, just entering upon his youth, was very beautiful. He was blackish in complexion and had large lotus eyes. Pitambaradari Ange Ratna Abaran Sri Krishna Smarane Teho Hoila Udipan. The prince was dressed in yellow cloth, and there were jeweled ornaments decorating his body. Therefore, anyone who saw him would remember Lord Krishna. So it's very common, not common, but it's very normal that many Indian parents will think that their son looks like Krishna. But in the case of Maharaj Prataparudra, his son actually did look like Krishna. Because he was the son of a king, he was dressed in yellow silk dhotis and with jewels. The prince was dressed with yellow cloth, and there were jeweled ornaments decorating his body. Therefore, anyone who saw him would remember Lord Krishna. Tarideke Mahaprabhu Krishna Smriti Hoila Premaveshe Tare Mile Kohite Lagila. Seeing the boy, Mahaprabhu immediately remembered Krishna. Meeting the boy in ecstatic love, the Lord began to speak. E Mahabhagavat Jahara Darshane Rajendra Nandana Smriti Hoy Sarvajane. Here is a great devotee, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. Upon seeing him, everyone can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, son of Maharaj Nanda. Kritarta Hoilana Ame Ihara Darshane Etaboli Punatare Koila Alingane. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, I become very much obligated just by seeing this boy. After saying this, the Lord again embraced the prince. Prabhu Sparshe Raja Putrera Hoila Premavesh Sveda Kampa Ashustamba Pulaka Vishesh. As soon as the prince was touched by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, symptoms of ecstatic love immediately manifested themselves in his body. These symptoms included perspiration, trembling, tears, being stunned, and jubilation. Krishna Krishna kohe nache koraye rodan tara bhagya deki shlaga kore bhaktagan. The boy began to cry and dance, and he chanted Krishna Krishna. Upon seeing his bodily symptoms and his chanting and dancing, all the devotees praised him for his great spiritual fortune. Tabe Mahaprabhu's Tare Darya Karaila Nitya Ashe Amai Miliha E Agyadila. At that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calmed the youth and ordered them to come there daily to meet him. Vidai Haya Raya Aila Raja Putre Loya Raja Sukha Paila Putre Chesta Dekiya. Ramananda Roy and the boy then departed from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Ramananda took him back to the king's palace. The king was very happy when he heard of his son's activities. Putre Lingana Kori Prema Vishta Hoila Sakat Parasha Jena Mahaprabhu Rapaila. Just by embracing his son, the king was filled with ecstatic love, just as if he had touched Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly. Se hoite Bhagavan Rajaranandan Prabhu Bhakta Gana Madhya Hoila Ekjan. From then on, the fortunate prince was one of the most intimate devotees of the Lord. Emata Mahaprabhu Bhakta Gana Sanghe Nirantara Krida Kore Sankirtana Range. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu acted in the society of his pure devotees, performing his pastimes and spreading the Sankirtan movement. Acharjadi Bhakta Kore Prabhore Nimantran Tahan Bhikka Kore Loya Bhaktagan. Some of the prominent devotees like Advaitacharya used to invite Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to take his meals at their homes. The Lord accepted such invitations accompanied by his devotees. Emata Nana Range Dina Katagela Jagannath Ratha Jatra Nikata Hoila. In this way, the Lord passed some days in great jubilation. Then the Jagannath Rathayatra, the car festival of Lord Jagannath, approached. Pratame Kashi Mishre Prabhu Bolaila Paricha Patra Sarva Bhome Bolaya Anila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first of all called for Kashi Mishra, then for the superintendent in the temple, then for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Tina Jan Pashe Prabhu Hashia Kohila Gundicha Mandira Marjan Seva Madhya-lila. When these three people came before the Lord, he begged them for permission to wash the temple known as Gundicha. Prabhu Kohe Amisab Sevaka Tomar Jaitomara Icha Se Kritavya Amar. Upon hearing the Lord's request for permission to wash the Gundicha temple, the Padicha, the superintendent of the temple, said, "My dear sir, we are all your servants. Whatever you desire is our duty to perform." Visheshi Rajara Agya Hai Ayache Amare Prabhora Agya Jay Se Shigra Koribare. The king gave a special order for me to do without delay whatever your lordship orders. Tomara Jogya Seva Nahe Mandir Marjan Ek Lila Kora Jay Tomaraman. My dear Lord, washing the temple is not service befitting you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted as one of your pastimes. So I'm going to stop here. Tomorrow we'll continue with this chapter, the cleansing of the Gundicha Temple. Okay. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopa Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Maranama Giridhari Gopinatha Maranama Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Janardan Shri Vasadi Tora Bhakta Vrinda Janardan Shri Vasadi Tora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Rasa Raguna Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajaka Charyashta Tata Sada Shishimad Srila Bhakti Tilak Nehru Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajaka Charyashta Tata Sada Shishimad Srila Bhakti Nirmamacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajaka Charyashta Tata Sada Shishimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajaka Charya Ashtadhara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Shridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Ragana Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Ragana Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Vishwabaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Kusham Ashram Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Srimad Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Koladvip Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kuna Radha Kunda Kalindi Amuna Jo Ki Jai. Shri Purushottam Madam Ki Jai. Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Jo Ki Jai. Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Shri Nrsinga Dev Ki Jai. Bhakta Prabhara Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari.